you guys fill out like the priority list from a couple months ago. The top one was meal prepping and recipes. So I kind of wanted to make it more of like an interactive, like question based, because I don't know where you guys are at with that, or what's confusing, or what's hard about it. But I did put together the one that's staples, just like tips and tricks for meal prepping, so we can go through that quick, and then if you guys have questions, we can go over that. So the first thing is starting small. So I think when people think about meal prepping, they just like go all the way in, and then they do it the first time and they're like, this was way too much time and it was crazy and I'm never doing it again. So starting small and just like creating, like how Chris has been teaching us about changing and creating new habits. So doing something like maybe you prep all your snacks for the week. Or maybe you just do all your breakfasts or all your lunches or all your dinners. So starting small with that one meal, and then once you get that under your belt, then you can slowly kind of venture out into doing more. The next part was just considering each food group. So making sure that you're getting in your healthy fats, your proteins, your vegetables, your whole grains and fruits. I personally like to stick to just like whole regular foods. I think they're the easiest to cook and prep, and that way you're kind of covering all your bases as far as like vitamins and nutrients go. The next step's getting organized, so making sure that everything in your kitchen and your refrigerator kind of makes sense and makes it a little bit easier for you to get everything together, so you know where everything is, all the common ingredients that you use. Everything in your refrigerators, you know, I usually, before I go grocery shopping, I'll clean out my fridge just so everything's out that doesn't need to be in there. The fourth part, investing in good quality storage containers. You can get these on Amazon. Patty, I see I have those containers as well. They suggest glass containers too, because they're good for microwaving and then they're more durable. I'm very clumsy, so I break a lot of my glass containers. Keeping a well-stocked pantry, so just having random things that don't really expire or go bad, like some different rices, quinoa, canned beans and lentils, canned goods, oils, all the baking essentials, having those just kind of always on hand, because those are going to be the staples for the majority of your prep. Same thing with spices, having all the common spices that you usually use on hand. The next part is shopping your pantry first. So before you kind of create your meal plan, just kind of take a look at what you already have, so you're not, you know, redoing the wheel every single time you go to the grocery store and buying everything. Just kind of take inventory of what you have. Making time. So maybe just like 10 to 15 minutes a week, especially in the beginning when you're starting small. Just putting that time aside so that that's your intention is to start the meal prep and kind of do that whole process. So that could be in your 10 to 15 minutes a week. Having a designated place for saving and storing recipes. I like to use Pinterest mostly. It's very easy, convenient. You can type in whatever you want, and usually you get something pretty useful that pops up. Always heading to the grocery store with a list or shopping online, so making sure that, I think one of the easiest things I learned about meal prepping is I used to just like buy all the ingredients for whatever I thought I needed, but actually coming up with the meals first and then breaking down what ingredients you need in those meals and putting that on your list instead of getting everything. Buying in bulk, especially for stuff like your rices, your cereals, anything that kind of doesn't go bad or takes a long time to go bad, those you're gonna wanna buy in bulk so that you just always have them on hand. Repurposing your leftovers, this is a good one. Just, you know, you don't necessarily have to have the whole, like exactly what you had, the same meal. You can change it up, so like if you made a baked chicken but you still have chicken left over, you can turn it into a soup, or you can make it into tacos, or just repurposing what you have. Batch cooking, so when you cook a lot of foods in one kind of sitting, so I like to do sheet pans. And I'll do like a sheet pan of chicken, a sheet pan of vegetables, a sheet pan of potatoes, just putting it all together, and then you can kind of piecemeal your meals from there. And that kind of goes along with like using your freezer. So when you do bake or make a whole lot of something, taking advantage of your freezer space so that you can have it readily available. It's kind of like the whole basis of meal prepping. It's just making it a little bit easier for you to stay on track. We're not trying to make it more complicated. We're just trying to.
I tried to get a bigger freezer, he won't do it.
You got a bed for your birthday instead of a freezer.
There you go.
Maybe next year.
And a crock pot.
And a crock pot. Pre-portioning your meals. That this is like the biggest actually takeaway of meal prepping is just having those ready to go containers. You're much less likely to pick on something or overeat or, you know, eat things that you don't necessarily want to eat just out of convenience sake. So having like a bunch of those containers in your fridge that are already portioned out that you can just pull is going to make your life a whole lot easier. Washing and prepping your fruits and vegetables right away. This was like a big one for me. I noticed if I just put my vegetables and fruits away, I avoided them because I was just hungry and I was like, I don't feel like washing and cutting and coring and doing all this stuff. So doing it right when you get back from the grocery store makes it a lot easier for you to just kind of take out. This one just talks about prepping smarter, not harder. So sometimes there are already prepared options at the store if you don't have time, if you're short on time that week. You can still meal prep, but you just don't have to do as much of the cooking or prepping. Using your slow or pressure cooker, like Q's gonna start using her pot. Set it and forget it. So you can even prep your meals into like freezer bags, put them in the freezer, and then just dump them in the crock pot in the morning, and by the time you get home from work, it's already all done. So that part's really nice.
That's a roast beef, that's a roast stew. I left it on too long.
Oh.
Figuring out your settings is important for that one too. And then the last takeaway was just varying your menu. So a lot of people tend to just go with like chicken, rice, and broccoli, or chicken, potatoes. So switching out, you know, if your staple carb has always been like potatoes, switch it out for rice, or switch it out for quinoa or barley. Or if you always eat broccoli, switch it out for like asparagus or something else, just so you're not getting bored or tired of it. Once you start getting tired of like the same mundane meals, you're less likely to keep prepping your meals. So what are people's biggest, because if everybody kind of voted for that, then there must be some concern somewhere in that area.
I got questions.
Uh-huh.
You up for a question?
Sure.
Okay, so let's go back for a second. So with the washing of vegetables,
Yes.
I was taught like porous things like blueberries, strawberries, that kind of stuff, that if I wash it, water gets into the pores and they're gonna go bad quick. Have you found that?
No, but I make sure that I like pat dry my vegetables and my fruits so that I'm not putting them back into the fridge wet. And I also put them in containers that have, it's not a mesh lining, but it's an open, like it sifts the excess liquid down into the bottom portion so it's not sitting in water.
Okay.
So
you
just
do
that kind of goes back to like the containers, having like the appropriate containers for different
Sure.
fruits and vegetables to keep them fresh longer.
Next one, and then these are just my two. I just want to, and then everybody else may have tons of questions, or I got more after that if nobody else has them. Can you give us an example of your food prep for this week? Like how long it took, and then what did you prep, and are you going to eat that for breakfast, dinner, lunch? And yeah, so how long that lasts? Do you prep all 3 meals, like all that good stuff? Like, can you give us a rundown?
Yeah, so lately I've been a little bit just more like loose with it. I'm not as strict. I'm not really counting my macros or doing anything in that regard. But I do just go ahead, like on Sunday, I chopped a bunch of vegetables, and I made, I think, like a huge sheet pan of lasagna, and I made a huge sheet pan of enchiladas. And then I made like a bunch of hard-boiled eggs, and I already had fruit put away into containers. Like for breakfast, I'll just grab some hard-boiled eggs and the fruit, or I'll pre-portion out yogurt and like put a little side of granola. So I I usually do it the night before just because I have the time.
Mhm.
But if I was doing it the week before, it would usually be like maybe an hour-ish, hour to 2 hours on a Sunday, and then like an hour on Wednesday to get through the week.
Oh, so you prep for, so that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday you prep for, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Usually by Wednesday is when you're kind of like your meals are a little bit iffy or questionable. If you made them on Sunday, I wouldn't probably go much more past that, but.
Well, you haven't grown up where I grew up. And I say that to say so you eat that same meal for lunch 3 days in a row, or do you vary it?
I mean, I'll vary it, so I'll make something different for lunch and then something different for dinner, and then you can flip flop.
Okay.
Like whatever I had for dinner last night, I'll have for lunch tomorrow, and then have something different for dinner that night.
Got it.
But I'm not really picky. I'll eat the same thing kind of over and over.
I'm going to step this way. Last question as I step away is, do you recommend it going 7 days, or at least having that Saturday and Sunday where you kind of get a little bit freedom with it?
That's like the tricky one, because I think when people think of like cheat days, then they just like go on a binge for an entire day, and that doesn't necessarily have to be what it is. Like it could be a cheat meal, or like maybe you're not super strict on prepping, but I'm moving more into having just things readily available. So instead of having just containers of pre-portioned foods, I just have everything readily available. So I'm still eating healthy and throughout the day, but not necessarily like just having like a day to let it all go, you know?
Got it. Yeah, that was just in regards to the weekend, like no prep, but like you said there, but not having I'm prepping 7 days a week. At
Right.
least have a couple of days where you can have.
Yeah, it's a little bit more relaxed.
Thank you. That's my, I got more if y'all ain't got none, so let me keep asking if you don't have it. Y'all better have it.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Cass, is your Sunday meal prep last you all the way to like Friday, or do you meal prep till Wednesday and then do it again Wednesday to Friday? You know what I'm trying to say?
It can. It depends on how much my husband decides to eat of it, if I have to redo it on Wednesday or not. But for the most part, by the time I get to Wednesday or Thursday, I'm starting to have to replenish some things. Not necessarily go to the grocery store, but having to just kind of make something different, or I get bored by Wednesday.
I have a question. Finding good protein. What would be a good protein, and recipes is my thing, because I want to try different stuff since I'm not eating
Meat?
beef, just fish. So
I mean, fish is a good source of protein. Tofu is a good source of protein. A majority of the grocery stores honestly have really good vegan and vegetarian options now. It's much more popular. But getting things in like your lentils, your beans, those are going to be important. I supplement with protein powder. It's not for everyone.
I like to find it.
But I make a lot of smoothies and stuff. Yogurt's a good source of protein. I would probably stay away from like excessive cheeses, but they also have protein in it as well. But tofu, learning how to cook tofu.
That's what I'm going to buy. I was gonna buy some, but I know there's a lot of plant-based stuff too.
There's a lot of plant-based stuff. Tempeh is a really good one too, and that's pretty versatile.
Can you speak on mushrooms and beans?
Meal prepping ain't good.
I personally don't like mushrooms,
Don't speak about them then. Okay. You don't like
so I
them.
never cook them.
Oh my.
But as far as beans, I put beans in like almost anything that I make. Honestly, black beans, white cannelli beans, and I use a lot of chickpeas. I make a lot of chickpea salad, or I put it just in my salads. Eat a lot of chickpeas. Yeah.
You do canned, frozen.
So I bought the dry, and I've tried to do the whole like cook them from when they're dry. It's a long process.
It is, and mine's come out mushy.
It's a long process. So unless you like have a specific recipe or you put it in a cooker, more power to you. I personally just have messed it up every single time. So I use canned.
Okay.
And do you have any good fish recommendations? I'd like to get a little bit more fish in my diet. So we like salmon,
Yeah.
and maybe some cod.
That's a tricky one because where I'm from is right on the ocean, so I don't really eat a whole lot of seafood here necessarily, but I used to eat a lot of like swordfish steaks are really good. Ahi tuna is good. Cod.
I
Just
do
like a
love cod.
generic whitefish. I think a lot of people down here eat tilapia.
Yeah,
right?
I'm
tilapia.
just not sure about tilapia.
I
It's
don't
not
know.
good.
Where it's
It's-
farm raised and, yeah.
It's like a,
That's the thing too that you get into is a lot of
Inflammatory.
salmon is farm raised by the
You eat
right
shrimp?
way.
Shrimp, oysters, crab, same thing. If you don't eat shrimp, oysters, crab, you don't eat tilapia, you don't eat crab, catfish, all of it's kind of like the same. Yeah. The bottom
Yeah.
feeder, but
I
something
do
will kill
like
you.
the
You eat
grits,
pork,
though.
if you eat pork, you may as well eat catfish. I heard that catfish and tilapia are the pigs of the sea. So if you eat pork, you may as well eat that. That's what I was taught.
Question. Are you familiar with nightshades?
Like eggplants and
Yeah.
yeah, how they have inflammatory properties. Is that what you're referring to?
Okay, can you like
What do
Give
you
a
do about
quick-
that, or?
something about, because I'm hearing that from physical therapy that I need to stay away from those, and I was just trying to figure out what
I don't necessarily believe in like eliminating foods from your diet. Maybe if you have like an inflammatory disease or there's a reason why you're having a lot of inflammation, maybe just limit. Honestly, the most I know about is just that like Tom Brady's personal nutritionist didn't want him to eat nightshades because I guess it was inflammatory and it hindered his muscle healing process. But I haven't found any like significant research indicating that nightshades are to be avoided.
Nightshades would be, like she says, your tomatoes, some of the other stuff.
Eggplants, they're just high in acidity, so they can lead to inflammation. That's basically the thought process behind it.
If you really get deep into it, they'll tell you that nightshades are responsible for lectins and that they lead to leaky gut. Because I had that issue, so that's why they asked me to stay away from those. Because when they say leaky gut, little tears, little areas or pockets in there, that cause you to keep running back and forth to the restroom. That's why they sometimes say, like you say, they say 2 to 3 times a day. If you go 2 to 3 times a day, well, really 2 to 3 times a day, but anything beyond that, like you're going 6 to 8 times a day, you probably want to cut back on some of your nightshades and some of your lectins, because what they're doing is they're breaking through the gut, and then they're telling you, oops, you better squeeze it. You know, that's just what. So I don't with that.
I think unless you have an underlying.
Underlying condition. then you know. I'm just telling you.
I mean, what are some issues that, or what prohibits people from meal prepping or like getting into that, being prepared?
For me, I think it's the size of my family. Like,
Yeah.
when I was just reading like a make a batch, and I'm like, I make that, I do that anyway, but it's
Right.
getting that same meal, it's all gone, you know?
I was gonna
So-
say you probably have trouble having leftovers.
I do. I have trouble having leftovers, so, I mean, maybe I need to do 2 pans.
Yeah, 2
Wow.
cans, or like if you are trying to be more strict with it, you can meal prep for yourself and then just like put out, you know, chopped vegetables, and then people can kind of get their own snacks as they go.
See, so I tried that, and then I started realizing that the pretzel was being missing.
The what?
The pretzels that I was doing were becoming missing. So I was like, you know,
You gotta put your name on
it's
it.
supposed to be healthy food. You eat
Right.
that too? And it was like, yeah, I would like to meal prep, so now it's like extra bites.
Yeah.
Like she said,
Well, you gotta
A big
incorporate
family.
them,
Well,
have
that's
them be
good.
Right.
responsible for doing some of the prep too.
That's true. That's true. Get the kids involved with, hey,
Yeah.
wash these and.
They might not wanna keep eating your meals if they know how much work goes into it.
Cassie, what's some of your snacks? Just things that you prep, have in the fridge, ready to go?
I'm a huge fruit person. I always have a ton of fruit. Right now, I'm really into watermelon.
Jesse, you
Can
turn.
you turn my died?
You do a lot
Turn
of
on your
nuts?
mic. Thank
Do
you.
I do a lot of what?
Nuts.
I do. I have a whole variety. Like I have a lot of sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. Actually, Tish, are really high in protein.
I got some of those.
But you have to watch out for the salted ones. I do have a ton of nuts. I'll put those more so in like a yogurt rather than just snack on them, or I'll get like the thinly dipped dark chocolate covered almonds for like, I always have a chocolate craving after everything I eat. But mostly fruits, vegetables, and hummus. I'm a big fan of. I do a lot of like rice cakes with peanut butter, protein shakes, sometimes protein bars, or I make like the energy bites with quick oats. Yeah,
Those are
What
pretty
kind of
easy
bars
to
is
make.
that?
super easy.
What kind of protein bars did you say?
It depends.
You make them? Or you just buy
Sometimes
some
if
at the
I'm
store?
feeling really adventurous, but not
No.
always. I'm trying to be more simple with my things now, cause I used to prep like all kinds of different recipes, but now like I can grab a banana and a coffee and I'll be okay.
Before, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, mine's pretty specific.
Go for it.
Okay, I was just going to ask, what is Bulgar?
Bulgur, it's a type of wheat. It's just a different, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of similar to like quinoa a little
Okay.
bit, but maybe a little thicker. It's like in between couscous and quinoa. if
And
you've ever had that.
so it's something you would serve as like a side dish?
Yeah, or you
Okay.
could mix like vegetables in with it and have it as like the carb side.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a rice alternative.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
That was it, Sue.
I was just gonna say, so for, if a person was a diabetic, you have to stay away from certain sugars and stuff, and that person do get cravings for sweets and like, chocolates and stuff. And I know that at one point you said that dark chocolate was good enough.
I use dark chocolate that's like 75% or higher, so it doesn't have a whole lot of sugar content. There's different brands, like Lily's doesn't add sugar. So it's like reading the ingredients and making sure they're not adding all the extra additives to it.
How about the Hershey's? Hershey's
The
dark
Hershey's
dark
is
chocolate.
gonna not help with the diabetes.
It did. I feel like I was, what they call it, itis.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
I
sorry,
have to
that
think on
person.
that one, but like you can make oat bites with like sometimes we'll put little dark chocolate chips in it. I've the Reese's peanut butter bars that you can make with the dark chocolate. It's just kind of switching more to the dark chocolate from the milk chocolate.
And with diabetes too, using a little bit of honey instead of sugar, so finding different sugar substitutes.
Honey was bad for me. I cut out honey.
It's high in sugar, but it's more bioavailable for your body. So like just how fruit, some people say don't eat fruit, there's too high in sugar, but it also has all the nutrients that your body needs as opposed to like a candy bar, you know? So,
So I can't have.
it's
that
not gonna give
person
you
can
as
have-
harsh as an influx of your insulin levels to spike as say a candy bar would. So replacing your sugars, like she said, like, you know, maybe you're having a sugar craving, so instead you choose like a piece of watermelon over a piece of chocolate, and then eventually you will wean yourself away from.
Or
Maybe
some-
not completely, but.
Like something my mom will have for breakfast quite often, she's a diabetic. She'll have, she'll go buy plain Greek yogurt and she'll have that in a bowl. And she'll get, like some blueberries or even like some frozen blueberries that she like defrosts just the, you know, she defrosts cause then they have like some juice in them. And then a little bit of honey on top. And I actually really like that too.
Yeah.
And then you just eat it. And so it does have some sugars, but it also has some good protein.
What about
Yogurt.
agave? I like that.
There's like
agave.
mixed reviews on agave. It's also a natural sweetener.
Yeah, I love
what?
It's called agave. Isn't it agave?
Agave.
Yeah, all right.
It's just a natural, it's from a plant.
It's from a cactus.
They also make tequila out of it.
They do.
Wine.
I have some agave cactuses. I've never made sweetener or tequila.
If you go in the store.
Either BJ's or Sam's Club, and they're like the
It's in the Mexican section.
margarita,
Yeah, the
like
Mexican
big old
I do
750 mils.
You got dark.
It's agave wine instead of which is why they can sell it
Right.
down here.
I have a question.
Yes, in the front row.
Hey. If you want to lean down, should you totally take out carbs and just do
No.
proteins and vegetables and fruits?
No.
Because that's all you ever hear about was like, you know, you need to just stop your intake of carbs and take it all out. Is that a good idea, or should you just like have a certain limit for every day?
It's all about what kind of carb. Can you hear me? I don't think she can hear me.
What'd she say?
as far from the computer. Can you hear me now? Yes.
Nate, you want my question again?
No, I heard it.
Okay.
So, no, so it's all about like what kind of carbs you have and then utilizing it in a different way. So maybe like loading your higher carb meals in the morning so that you kind of burn it throughout the day instead of loading up on carbs at night after you're kind of like sedentary and not really doing anything. But your body needs carbs for everything. It's the main source of glucose that your brain uses carbs basically to think. So that's why people get like brain fog when they go on keto for a long time or don't incorporate a whole lot of carbs. And then just switching out your carbs that are gonna give you like a high insulin spike, so like white bread, white flour, anything that's bleached, those are gonna cause you to spike and crash. So switching it out for like a sprouted grained toast or quick oats instead of like the pre-made oatmeal, stuff like that will give you that more steady energy throughout the day. Maybe, you know, having smaller portions of carbs, like you can still have your rice, but instead of having like half a cup, have a fourth of a cup. But eliminating them altogether, I never ever suggest.
Rice and the potatoes or whatever during breakfast, lunch, but just not having it at night would probably be the ideal way of trying to lean down and lose extra pounds.
Yeah, if that was your goal, I would say stick with that.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, can you answer the question about weaning down? How would you suggest weaning down?
I mean, it's a whole. You have to increase your activity levels. The basis of it is burning more calories than you consume. Upping your protein, hydration, increasing your cardio, and it doesn't have to be like hard, crazy cardio. It can just be like maybe doing an extra lap around, you know, the block than you normally do, or adding another day or two. And small changes like that usually help. And eliminating things that you're consuming, like soda is a big one. Eliminating that usually helps people drop weight pretty quick.
I just tried.
What about muscle mass? People use, you know, like some people, that's my problem as well, because I don't eat enough, because I'm constantly busy, and my thing was late night eating. Once I got everybody done, the kids down, whatever, then I could focus on eating. Is losing muscle mass because I'm not eating.
I just had to laugh when you said focus on eating, because I'm thinking about my ice cream tonight. Go ahead.
So you're worried about maintaining muscle
Yeah,
mass?
maintaining muscle mass to build muscle mass instead of losing it.
So building muscle mass, you have to actually do some strength training, resistance training, because the only way you're gonna. What are you trying to do?
Oh, I'm just.
Okay. The only way you're gonna maintain it is if you're continuing to use it. It's use it or lose it, right? You know, as far as like diet goes, that's where am I going with this? Worried about Chris turning this towards me.
I am. Don't worry.
So
We'll get you.
you can lose weight with diet, but in order to gain muscle, you have to put stress on the muscle for it to rebuild itself, and then make sure you're having adequate amounts of protein.
Okay, that was my problem the last time. I lost a lot of weight.
But yeah, and
I
if
lost
you
a lot
can,
of muscle.
even if you're busy, like just having snacks that are like in small little packages that are quick and easy to eat, just making it so that you're eating more throughout the day, so when you get home, you're not like ravenous.
Okay.
What do you suggest for like, because I'm starting to have like a lot of cramping, during the night, you know, like even when I move, I have like RLS, so I'm constantly moving. But, like when I try to stretch out, my legs start to cramp up, so I kind of like just ball up again.
Potassium, magnesium, sodium, and water. Making sure you have adequate amounts of all of those things. Magnesium, a lot of people don't have a whole lot of because our food is so processed.
I was taking supplements for that. I just haven't restocked up, but I was taking potassium pills or supplement, and also magnesium. it had another one with it. And glucosamine is what they told me to start taking also.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to take supplements. I mean, you could just incorporate a banana a day. That's usually an adequate amount of potassium for the average person. Making sure you're drinking enough water and fluid throughout the day too, staying hydrated.
How about for magnesium and sodium?
Sodium we probably get enough of in our average diet. Magnesium is a little bit more difficult because our food is so processed that it just kind of deletes.
I think it's hard for me because of my surgery. So my body is basically depleting, it's the way they rerouted my system is that it gets rid of a lot of nutrients. That's why I take supplements.
Gotcha. Yeah. I use Calm. It's a magnesium supplement. It's just a powder. Usually taken at night. It helps you sleep.
Oh.
But other than that, I don't really know of any other magnesium supplements other than Proform.
Well, I know magnesium citrate is not good.
You want mag, no, my doc gave me Mag Ox.
Okay.
Well, not gave it to me, but told me to get it. So what I would do is fiber every day, but to activate the fiber will stop you up and make you go. But the Mag Ox was used as a stimulant, but it also helps with sleep and headaches. I found that it helps with headaches too. We're not physicians to prescribe how much you take, but I found that it actually helped with the sleep wake cycle.
Yeah, it does.
But mag citrate, mag citrate, that's like, you about to go do a colonoscopy.
That's,
Don't want that.
that's in the vault.
Yeah.
Send you straight there.
Awesome, well listen guys, if you guys have any more comments or suggestions, or ideas, or questions for Kathy, certainly you can, let her know. And I know she'd be more than willing to help.
Thank
So
you.
Cass, really thank you for doing your debut.
Thank you so very much.
Awesome, virtual land.